All right, what's up, everyone? It's Andrew Bone here with BamaInsider.com, part of the Rivals.com network here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Just wanted to give you guys an update in terms of what's all been going on in recruiting. So not a whole lot. I mean, it's just kind of been a slow start to the season in terms of recruiting scoop, recruiting news, anything like that. It's going to start to pick up here in a few weeks when Alabama starts, getting some SEC home games, and we start seeing more and more players visit. We'll start seeing more commitments happen. We'll start seeing kids set decision dates and stuff like that. So, just want to give you guys an update on what's going on with some key targets, and kind of get out of here pretty quick. I may take a few Q&A questions today, so be sure to have those ready. All right, since this kid's about to commit, I figured I'd just go ahead and tell you guys a little bit about him. AJ Parks out of Maryland is announcing his decision today. Rivals 100 offensive tackle. We actually just saw him recently get an offer from Alabama about a week. Well, I say a week. It's probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. He got offered by Alabama. So a late offer for him. He announced the top three of Alabama, Oklahoma, and North Carolina. He's expected to announce at 11 o'clock. He may have already announced. I'm not paying attention to it. There's a reason I'm not paying attention to it, because it's not going to be Alabama. I don't expect him to choose Alabama. I think he's going to choose Oklahoma if he hasn't already announced it. So expect AJ Parks to announce for Oklahoma. Now, that doesn't mean Alabama is going to miss out on another offensive lineman. I think that as of right now, they've got their 3 offensive line commitments. I think they're pretty excited about those 3 guys. And I think there's a few other offensive linemen who are out there that they're recruiting, that they're keeping tabs on, that they may decide to push for down the road. AJ Parks being one of those guys. I don't think they're really pushing hard for him at this time. That's why I think and even if they were, I mean, he may still go to Oklahoma, but I just don't think Alabama's making a big push for anybody on the offensive line just yet. They might down the road, so we may see Alabama revisit AJ Parks and get him in for an official visit down the road. All right, so now that we've talked about him, Alabama did actually go see him on Friday night play, but still nothing changed. I mean, Charles Huff, the running backs coach, went and saw him play, but I don't think anything, made them think, all right, this guy's a top priority. We need to get him on board real quick. So maybe down the road, like I said, in case Alabama does lose maybe one of its offensive line commitments, or maybe they miss out on a kid at another position, they may go after him. Another guy that they went and saw last week on Friday was Jordan Burch, the 5-star defensive end, number 4 overall player in the country, out of Columbia, South Carolina, at the Hammond School. A big-time target for Alabama, has been on Alabama's radar for a very long time, has made a few trips to Tuscaloosa this year. He was there during the spring. He came back in the summer. I think it was in June for the cookout. So he is a major, major target for the Tide, and this is a big target for Brian Baker, the new defensive line coach. But it's a tough task. I mean, you got a kid who lives right in Columbia. He's in the state of Clemson. Georgia's close by. So you got a lot of heavy hitters kind of recruiting Jordan Burch. Everybody really wants him as a part of their recruiting class. I think Alabama's got a good chance with him. I say a good chance. I think everyone thinks they've got a good chance with him out of that, group of 4 schools. He doesn't really say much about his recruitment. He's not going to tip his head in any direction. A lot of people kind of just assume, oh, he's a Georgia lean. Oh, he's a Clemson lean. Oh, he's going to stay home and play at South Carolina. I don't think anyone really knows. I think everyone's just guessing. Everyone's going to have to kind of wait and let these official visits play out, let the in-home visits play out, because there's no telling what could happen. I think all the schools are doing a good job recruiting him, but he's just one of those kids that nobody's going to get much information from until he makes his decision. So, I just wouldn't buy into the fact yet. A lot of people are trying to say, oh, he's leaning this way or he's leaning that way. Wouldn't buy into that just yet. I don't think he's, particularly leaning any which way. I think he's pretty quiet. He doesn't tell anybody who he's favoring. So let's just see how it plays out. But Alabama still very much involved with Jordan Burch, and I think they've got a good chance to, they'll at least get him on campus for an official visit. Nick Saban will do in-home visit with him later on this year, and we'll just see how how things play out. All right, so this weekend in Tuscaloosa, Alabama is going to have some official visitors on campus. Including an Alabama legacy. They'll have a few other guys on campus. Not a big recruiting weekend, as you can imagine. I'm sure some of y'all aren't even going to Tuscaloosa because it's an 11 a.m. game against Southern Miss. So there's even a lot of fans that probably, who typically go to the game won't. So you're not going to see a ton of recruits. I don't know if Alabama is really pressing hard for a ton of recruits to come this weekend either because of the early kickoff, because of the opponent. But I think there's still going to be some guys there, and we'll talk about some of the official visitors. One is Reggie Grimes. Many people know that name. He's an Alabama legacy. His father played at Alabama in the late 90s, defensive lineman. He's going to be on campus. Another defensive lineman that's going to be on campus is Alfred Collins out of Texas. He's going to be in Tuscaloosa on an official visit. We hadn't really talked about him a ton, just because I don't know how hard Alabama has been pushing for him. Now they're getting him on campus for an official. He's been in communication with the coaching staff. We've talked about several other defensive linemen that Alabama has been recruiting throughout the year. Jordan Burch, McKinley Jackson, Jamil Burrows, a lot of top end guys like that. So Alfred Collins is coming in. I'm sure Alabama kind of wants to, see him in person, spend some time with him, get to know him, get to know his family, and kind of decide from there where they want to go. I don't know if he could come in and commit this weekend, but I think that Alabama is very interested, and that's why they're bringing him in. Kind of the same with Reggie Grimes. Now, Reggie Grimes is a little different because he's been recruited by Alabama for such a long time. They know him and his family really well. He's been on campus several times. He's a top 100 player. At the same time, you got to figure out which position is he going to play in college because he's 6'5", 240 pounds. He's played running back. He's played quarterback. He's played linebacker, defensive end. He's played a little bit of safety. I mean, he's kind of played all over the field the last couple of years. So I think it's still trying to figure out exactly where he fits in, what position he'll play once he gets to the next level. And but he's been on Alabama's radar for a long time. Like I said, are they making a incredible push to get him in this class? I'm not sure that's the case just yet. I think they're really, kind of watching him this fall to kind of see, how he performs on the field, kind of where he would fit in. And you also have to look at the numbers because you look at Alabama's recruiting class right now, you got 22 commitments. Well, so not a lot of spots left. I mean, I still think Alabama's probably going to get around 28 guys this year. But there's some other positions that they're still heavily going after. There's some guys that they feel like they can get. There's a big time quarterback they're going after. There's they still want another wide receiver. Still need another tight end. Still recruiting defensive linemen, still recruiting some linebackers, still recruiting some defensive backs. So there's not a lot of space left, and there's a lot of talent that's still out there that they're recruiting. So we'll kind of see where things stand with Alabama and Reggie Grimes after this weekend. But we'll keep an eye on both of those guys and hopefully have interviews with Grimes and Collins after their official visits on BamaInsider.com. So be sure to stay tuned to Bama Insider throughout the weekend because I'll be posting little notes and nuggets throughout the weekend. Kyle Edwards, Alabama commitment, 4-star running back, making his first trip back to Tuscaloosa for the first time since his commitment to Alabama back in August. So I'm sure he's excited to get on campus and as a commitment. And then Jake Brenningstool, he's a 4-star tight end in the 2021 class. We've seen a couple of really good tight ends visit with the Tide already this year. And this is another one. Hudson Wolf, big time 2021 tight end from Savannah, Tennessee, visited Alabama for the first home game in the Rivals 100. And now they get another big time tight end in the 2021 class, Jake Brenningstool, coming in for an unofficial visit. So, like I said, small group of talent coming in, but still very talented guys. All right. So next guy I want to talk about and this has been a big topic of conversation, and the conversation has really seemed to have heated up over the course of the last couple of weeks, and yeah, I think a lot of people probably know who I'm going to talk about, and that's Bryce Young, the Rivals 100 quarterback, who I think he's got a good chance to end up being a 5-star. Unbelievable senior season so far. He threw for 500 yards 2 weeks ago. Last weekend against St. Francis out of Baltimore. Just an unbelievable game, 350 all-purpose yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. I mean, just one of the most exciting high school football players in the country right now. And he's been committed to USC for, I think over a year. He hasn't visited Alabama in a while, but I don't think that really matters too much. Really like Alabama's chances with Bryce Young. On Rivals, we cannot switch. We cannot put a future cast in or a forecast in and make a prediction, if a kid is committed elsewhere. But if we could, I would put a prediction in on Bryce Young to Alabama. I really like Alabama's chances here, and they've done a great job recruiting him, staying in contact with him. I think with the situation at USC, it's kind of fluid. They do have a really good freshman quarterback who's played pretty well so far. There's still some uncertainty if Clay Helton's going to be there at the end of the season, and I don't really think it matters too much one way or the other. I don't think it matters if they do fire him and they do go after a big name head coach. Don't think it matters. I think Alabama's in great position to get Bryce Young. I couldn't say when he's going to commit. I do think it happens sooner rather than later. If it does happen, I think it would happen sooner rather than later. Alabama's still going after some big name guys on the offensive side of the ball. Eric Gilbert, even Zachary Evans. You look at some of these wide receivers that they're still heavily recruiting. Brian Robinson, Xavier Henderson, Kashawn Boot, Arian Smith. All these guys are probably looking at recruiting classes and seeing which quarterbacks are committed, or who will be throwing them passes over the course of the next 3 to 4 years. And getting a guy like Bryce Young on board for Alabama would be a big help for them. I think so. I think if Bryce Young does decide to flip, I think it's going to happen relatively soon rather than down the road. So that's just my prediction. You never know what may happen in recruiting, but that's kind of where I'm leaning right now. I know there's a lot of talk right now that it could happen very soon, and that would not surprise me in the least bit. And as of right now, would predict Bryce Young to Alabama. All right, so what's next? Anything else happening in the recruiting world? We'll talk about just a couple kids that I think will commit soon. Joe Williams, 4-star defensive back from Baton Rouge, didn't commit last Monday when he was originally supposed to. Decided to hold off. Really kind of confused as to why. Not really sure. He hasn't said anything. Never even came out and said he was postponing his decision. We just had found out that he wasn't going to announce. Alabama still pressing hard for him. Alabama still wants him as a part of the class. The only thing we did kind of hear was that he had a video that just wasn't ready to come out. So, maybe that's the case. But I still think Alabama's in the driver's seat. I think Alabama will get him. And it's just kind of a matter of time before he commits. And then Jamil Burrows, 4-star defensive lineman from Georgia, McEachern High School, same high school as Alabama commitment, Javon Baker. I think he'll commit to Alabama. Not really sure exactly when he'll do it, but I think he'll do it relatively soon. Just recently decommitted from Georgia, and he's been to Tuscaloosa several times. Attended both cookouts during the summer. Attended Alabama's season opener against Duke in Atlanta. So I think Alabama's in great shape with him. So those are probably the 3 guys that I would watch the closest right now in terms of who could be next to commit to Alabama is Bryce Young, Jamil Burrows, and Joel Williams. So those are the 3 guys that I would kind of keep an eye out on. And I'm going to go through here, answer a few questions that you sent. Try to keep it relatively short today. If I won't go over about 20 minutes, but I'll answer a few questions here. get out of here and see you next time. So let's see, guys. A lot of comments so far. Sorry, just trying to read through this. What's the chance of Shadure Sanders, Deion Sanders' younger son? Sorry. With Drake May being committed to Alabama, I think it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens, and especially what happens with Bryce Young. Bryce Young jumps on board. You have Bryce Young in this class. You have Drake May in next year's class. I think you're just going to have to kind of wait and see what happens with maybe some other quarterbacks. I think they'll still recruit some top quarterbacks throughout the country. I think they would like to get maybe 2 quarterbacks in next year's recruiting class, no matter what happens with Bryce Young. But I wouldn't make a strong bet on Sanders joining Alabama's class just yet. All right, how strong is Javon Baker's commitment? I think it's pretty strong. I think it's gotten stronger over the course of the last few months. Probably back in May, June, I was thinking, all right, Alabama's got a long way to go to hold on to Javon Baker, but I think the additional trips to Tuscaloosa during the summer, making it over for the Duke game, I think his commitment has become a lot stronger. And then Jamil Burroughs, his teammate, if he jumps on board, I think that's going to help out. I don't think Javon Baker is going to leave the class at all. Do I expect Kashawn Boot to sign with Alabama, the LSU commitment? As of right now, probably not. And I said this a few months ago. I said a lot's going to depend on LSU and how they perform on the field this fall, and how their offense performs. Because frankly, they had a ton of star wide receivers through the years down in Baton Rouge, but they never really got the ball to them. I mean, you just never saw big explosive numbers. You never saw quarterbacks with big explosive numbers, and now their offense is in pretty high gear. I think they're doing extremely well, and I think it's probably going to keep Boot solid with his commitment. Now, is he going to visit Alabama? Yes, he's going to take an official visit in November for that LSU game, but at this time, I think he sticks with LSU. All right. Do I expect Gilbert to sign with Alabama? Eric Gilbert, the number 1 tight end in the country. For the longest time, it looked like a Georgia-Tennessee battle. Now it's starting to shift. Looks like an Alabama-Clemson battle after he took a visit up to Clemson a few weeks ago. Could this change a few more times between now and when he makes a decision? Possibly, but as of right now, I would say Alabama's in good shape, but still a long way to go. I mean, there's other schools that are very, very much in the picture for him. But if I had to pick a school today, I would pick Alabama. Do I expect Noah Sewell to Alabama? 5-star linebacker out of Utah? No, I do not. Do I expect Burch to sign with Alabama? Like I said, I think there are 4 schools very much in the picture for him. He doesn't say anything about his recruitment. I mean, he's a big-time target for everybody. So I'm not going to make a prediction just yet. I just know that Alabama's in it, along with Georgia, Clemson, and South Carolina. Do I expect McKinley Jackson to sign with Alabama? McKinley Jackson, we mentioned him briefly earlier. One of Alabama's top remaining defensive line targets. I think the biggest thing with McKinley Jackson is going to be, who all is committed to Alabama by the time he commits, because he wants to wait until signing day in February. Could Alabama's class potentially be full? Yeah, absolutely. There's not a lot of spots left. Alabama's trying to get a few more defensive line commitments in this class. I think they will, but it's all going to depend on what their class looks like in February. Let's see. Would Tyson transfer if Bryce Young flips? That's hard to say if anybody's going to transfer. I mean, you still got to come in. You got to compete. You got to try to win the quarterback job. Nobody's saying that Bryce Young is going to come in and win the job right away. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see if he does flip, which a lot of people assuming that he will. Could it happen? And like I said, I think it happens sooner rather than later. And we'll just have to wait and see kind of what happens down the road with some other guys. Is D-line commit Jason Jones still looking to decommit? it's hard to talk about because I think I think he's been visiting some other schools. I don't know how heavily Alabama's pressing to keep him on board. I know there's been some things that he's been upset with Alabama about, but he's still committed. He really likes Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech seems to be pushing really hard for him. I could see him ending up at Georgia Tech. There's some other schools that have been showing some more interest in him this fall. As of right now, it wouldn't shock me if he decommits. And that's kind of all I'll say right now. Let's see. Do I think the tight end from Vegas signs with Alabama? Darnell Washington, 5-star tight end out of Vegas, big time target. Tough to say. Right now I would put my money on Georgia. He's going to visit Georgia this weekend. A lot of people assume that they are the leader at this time. Now, I don't think it will really matter that much if Alabama ends up getting Eric Gilbert because, you got to get one of those two guys. Big need at the tight end position this year. Got to get you've got Caden Clark already on board, but you need to get, you got two special guys in Eric Gilbert and Darnell Washington in this year's recruiting class. You got to get one of those guys. So if Alabama gets Eric Gilbert, it won't really matter that much if they miss on Darnell Washington or if they get Darnell Washington and miss on Eric Gilbert. But right now, would lean towards Georgia for Darnell Washington. What's the latest on Jordan Banks? Looks like Jordan Banks, the 4-star linebacker from California, Narbonne High School in Harbor City, going to announce a commitment sometime in November, probably early November. He's going to take an official visit to Alabama for the LSU game. I really like Alabama's chances still with him. Big time target for the Crimson Tide. I think his top 4 is Alabama, Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Washington. I like Alabama's chances still a lot with him. Let's see. Is Nadab Joseph close to committing? Not really sure what's going on with Nadab right now. I think the biggest thing with him is focusing in on, qualifying. He didn't qualify coming out of high school, so now he's, really focusing on qualifying academically, coming out of junior college. So that's kind of his biggest focus right now. I think he will qualify. It's the top 2 of Alabama and Georgia. He named Georgia as his favorite a couple months ago in an interview, but I actually think Alabama has the best chance to land him as long as he can qualify. Do I think this can be do you think this can be the class to get Alabama's defense back to scary dominant status? Man, it's a great recruiting class on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, that linebacker unit is just unbelievable with Drew Sanders, Demoy Kennedy, Quandarius Robinson. Jackson Bratton. It is extremely talented. You potentially get Chris Braswell. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And you add a guy like Jordan Banks down the road, potentially add a guy like Phillip Webb down the road to that group. I mean, it is extremely talented. Now you still got to get some more defensive linemen. I mean, you got some good defensive linemen. You got William Anderson, who had 22 sacks as a junior. Timothy Smith, big monster defensive lineman in the middle. The defensive back group is very strong, but they're still going after some other guys. But yeah, I mean, especially that linebacker unit, it's one of the best that I've seen. Nick Saban or any school has been able to get. All right, if Bryce Young flips, who do I see him helping bring in with him that is still on the fence? Bama versus other schools. You never know how much that's going to work because you don't know about relationships that he has with some other guys. I mean, a lot of these guys that he may Alabama may say, hey, we want you to contact these guys. He may not have relationships with them, but people know who he is. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, he's a potential 5-star quarterback. He is the number 1 dual threat quarterback in the country, so that gets other players excited if they see the number 1 dual threat quarterback in the country trying to recruit them if they have Alabama in their top 2, top 3. So I think that certainly helps, but at the same time these kids are still going to make their own decisions. Did the running back from Texas the running back from North Shore commit yet? Speaking of Zach Evans, the number 1 running back in the country, no, he hasn't. Not really sure what's going on with him. He was going to commit about a week ago, decided to hold off. Not really sure what's going on with him. We all still think Georgia's in the driver's seat, but even if he does commit to Georgia soon, Alabama, Texas A&M, LSU, all still very much in the picture with him until the end. Let's see. Do I think Alabama will try to sign a graduate transfer quarterback if they don't land Bryce Young? Yes, probably so if they don't get him. Which wide receiver do you expect Bama to sign as the fourth wide receiver? It's hard to predict just yet. And I know I've been saying that for the last couple months, but nothing really has changed. We did see Arian Smith, the four-star from Florida, came out and said the other day, named a top five, didn't have Alabama in this top five. So looks like Alabama's starting to fall off a little bit for him. Still wouldn't be surprised if he makes it up to Tuscaloosa for an official visit. But as of right now, don't see him in this class. Keyshawn Boot, he's going to make it for an official visit. But as of right now, I think he sticks with LSU. So two guys that I kind of watch out for are Xavier Henderson and Brian Robinson. Those two guys from the state of Florida that Alabama's heavily recruiting. And you never know. I mean, Alabama could end up potentially taking Eric Gilbert as a fourth wide receiver. Those are really the only two guys, Henderson and Robinson, they're heavily recruiting now. They may, in terms of guys that I think they have a chance to land. But as of right now, not really sure who else they will go after. We may see another wide receiver pop up over the course of the next few months, may come in for a visit or may even emerge after the season. I mean, we see so many kids emerge after their senior season that, of course, everyone just thinks, oh, well, you miss on somebody, you gotta go after, a guy that's, not really a big name or may have smaller school offers. Well, Alabama offered Josh Jacobs 2 days before National Signing Day. Alabama offered Eddie Jackson after his senior season. I mean, trust me, there's plenty of guys who can become All-Americans or become NFL All-Pros or anything like that, even if they don't have offers during the season. So, we may easily see some guys end up getting offered down the road. So we'll keep an eye on all that and let everybody know. What are Alabama's chances with tight end Theo Johnson? Well, until about a week ago, I would have said 0. But all of a sudden, Theo Johnson out of Canada has decided to take an official visit to Alabama in November. Still think Alabama's probably on the outside for him, but the fact that he is going to come in for an official visit, I think that's big. I wouldn't put Alabama in the driver's seat at all for him. I don't think he's ever visited Tuscaloosa. This will be his first visit to Alabama, so we'll see how that visit goes and then kind of go from there. All right. This guy's posted, I've heard that Timothy Smith could go elsewhere. Well, the only other place that I see Timothy Smith going is Florida. He's visited Florida a few times since his commitment. They're certainly making him a top priority down there. And I do think Alabama has to worry about that. And that's why they had to continue to recruit several other defensive linemen, because you never know what may happen during that early signing period or even in February whenever Timothy Smith decides to sign. You don't want to lose a guy like him because he's an extremely talented guy. He's your best defensive lineman in this class. He can really help out. And defensive line is a big position of need right now. And I'm sure Alabama's telling him that. The good thing with Timothy Smith is they do have Sal Sinceri recruiting him, and Sal is one of the best recruiters in the country. I think he can keep him on board. As of right now, still lean that he sticks with Alabama, but I would watch out with Florida until the end for him. How many players can Alabama sign in this class? Like I said earlier, I think it's going to be probably around 28. Is Bama looking at any other junior college players other than Nadab Joseph? No. I mean, we mentioned some other guys in the past, late spring, early summer, guys who visited, but Alabama really kind of focused in on Nadab Joseph as the only JUCO guy that they really like, that they feel like can make a big impact. Marco Damio, who committed to Auburn, he was another guy that they liked a lot, but I think if they were to choose one or the other, they would go with Nadab. We talked about Nadab coming to Tuscaloosa this past summer in June. unbelievable measurements. I mean, 6'2", 195 pounds, ran a 4.41 40, had a 41-inch vertical, 11-foot broad jump. I mean, just incredible numbers that you just you hope to get that guy qualified and get him on campus to make an impact on your team. But I think Nadab Joseph is the only JUCO guy that they are recruiting. All right, let's see. Do I expect Philip Webb to sign with Alabama? Philip Webb's a tough one to predict because I think everyone kind of has their assumption that it's an LSU Auburn battle for him. He took an official visit to LSU back during the summer, came off that visit very high. He grew up an Auburn fan, so he really likes Auburn a lot. But this is another guy that South Sincere is personally recruiting, and that they need another pass. Alabama needs another pass rusher in this class. I really like him a lot. I think they've got a good chance to get him. And, we'll just kind of wait and see what happens. I think that Alabama is in, I wouldn't say in good shape, but I think they're right there, top 2, top 3 for him at this time. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. We're right over 30 minutes. I was thinking we were going to go about 20 minutes today, but we went over 30. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to join us at BamaInsider.com, which is part of the Rivals.com network. We have an unbelievable community over there of Alabama fans you can connect with. I'm on my recruiting board every single hour. You can ask me a question anytime on there. I'll be more than happy to answer. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if anybody's out there that wants to be a sponsor of this YouTube show, hit me up. Let me know. Love to promote your business on here as well. But that's all for today. Hope you all have a great rest of the week and weekend, and we'll talk soon. All right.